Okay, so for the last few years, WWE Games have been selling around 2.5 million copies on average. But at points in the last 19 or so years, there's been some WWE games that have smashed through that average, with one game in particular selling well over 7 million copies. Here are the top 10 best-selling WWE games of all time. At number 10 we have WWE 2K15, which sold 3 million copies. WWE 2K15 was the first WWE game to release on the PS4 and Xbox One, and at the time there was a lot of hype for this game, which is why it probably sold better than the usual average of 2.5 million each year. And here's a fact for you about this game as well. The worst selling version of the game was not the PS3 version or Xbox 360 version, it was actually the Xbox One version which sold the least copies. Number 9 is Smackdown 2, which sold 3.2 million copies on the PS1 alone. Now this game deserves a lot more credit than most of the games on this list, because it was only released on one console, and it still managed to sell more than most WWE games that are sold on 3 or 4 different consoles. The 8th best selling WWE game of all time is Smackdown vs Raw 2006, and it would also be the best selling PS2 WWE game of all time, which means it also beat the legendary Smackdown Here Comes the Pain. This would also be the first time that a console that was not the PS2 would also get a Smackdown or Smackdown vs Raw game. A PSP version would release alongside the PS2 version. It was the start of the Smackdown vs Raw takeover of WWE Games. At number 7 is the last ever Smackdown vs Raw game, which is Smackdown vs Raw 2011. The Smackdown vs Raw series would go out with a bang, with Smackdown vs Raw 2011 selling 3.51 million copies. It would also be the last time that a main series WWE game appeared on PS2 and PSP. The very first Smackdown game on PS1 takes the 6th spot in this list, selling a very impressive 3.58 million copies on just one console. It also currently holds the record as the highest selling WWE game on one platform. Here is an insane fact: Smackdown on one platform outsold WWE 2K18, which sold on 4 different platforms. It's safe to say that the first ever Smackdown game was extremely popular with fans. The 5th best selling WWE game of all time is Smackdown vs Raw 2007, with 3.74 million copies sold. Smackdown vs Raw 2007 would be the first time that the Xbox would get a taste of the Smackdown vs Raw series. At the time, Smackdown vs Raw 2007 was the best selling Smackdown or Smackdown vs Raw game, thanks to the addition of the Xbox 360 version of the game. At number 4 is Warzone, which sold an incredible 4.69 million copies over just 2 platforms. The PS1 version of Warzone is the second highest selling single platform release for a WWE game, with the first Smackdown game selling just a bit more to get the number 1 spot. Warzone does hold one record, however. It is actually the highest selling non-main series WWE game of all time, which is still very impressive. Number 3 is Smackdown vs Raw 2009, which sold 4.86 million copies over 6 different platforms. By 2008, the Smackdown vs Raw series was selling on every platform that it could get released on, and that helped overall numbers increase quite drastically compared to early WWE PS2 games. Fun fact about Smackdown vs Raw 2009, you would think that it sold the most on the PS3 or the Xbox 360 by 2008, but it was actually the PS2 version that was the highest selling version, with the PS2 version outselling the Xbox 360 and PS3 version quite easily. This would be the last time that a PS2 version of a WWE game would be the highest selling version. Smackdown vs Raw 2010 is at number 2 with 5.15 million copies sold over 6 different platforms. Although the PS3 was starting to take over as the top selling platform for WWE games, the PS2 would still surprisingly perform well even in 2009 with an impressive 1 million copies sold, selling more than the Xbox 360 version of the game. And lastly, at number 1 is Smackdown vs Raw 2008, which sold an unbelievable 7.39 million copies. This was the first WWE game to release on just about everything it could release on, and the strategy of releasing it on every console it could release on worked better than THQ probably expected. Other than the Nintendo DS version of the game, every other platform sold 1 million copies, with the PS2 version selling well over 2 million copies. Smackdown vs Raw 2008 would end up being a huge financial success for THQ, and WWE Games would never reach or even come close to reaching these kind of numbers again. And that is the end of today's video. Was you surprised with how well any of the games sold? Let me know in the comments if you expected these numbers for the games mentioned. Also, let me know if you would like to see a video about the worst selling WWE games of all time. And lastly, if you did enjoy this video, please make sure to leave a like, and I'll see you all on the next video.